Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Jaleen, aka Shaman IndiGold. She is a Antojai Quantum Reiki Coach, sacred ME Alchemist, Twilight Shaman author, publisher, and much more than that. I love what you say here. I am on an endless journey of learning self-empowerment and self-mastery. So you also co-authored the book, Riding the Waves of Change, Navigating and Flowing with the Changing Currents of Life. What's not to love about that? The water. That's something that really resonates with the body-mind for some reason. But we have a lot to talk about that too. Before we begin, I want to say that the full bio will be at the end. So Jaleen's full bio will be at the end of this interview. The question that I love to ask, Jaleen, to everybody is, how would you introduce yourself? Who are you, or what are you in your own words?
Thank you for that question. That's so empowering, because I think that's something that at some point we all ask, like, who are we? And on my journey particularly, that's been an unwinding of who I am not. So when I encounter this question, it's more for me, what am I not? Because if I am truly everything, if I have the energy of the universe within me, it's more a question of unwinding all of those perceptions of who I was told that I am, and then embodying just that all-encompassing everything. So I know that doesn't answer your question directly, but it truly is my truth in that I just embody my expression in every moment, and I allow that to be fluid.
Yes. So is water connected to something that we call impermanence? Do you have this understanding too, Jaleen, or it's it's much more than that?
Absolutely. So truly, water is, for me, it's just purity. I mean, we are made of water. So, you know, it's no coincidence that you feel that connection. It's literally that connection within ourselves, because we are water. The earth is primarily water. And then when we look throughout the cosmos, water comes up again. So it's truly the embodiment of everything. And then we have the motion and the fluidness of the water. So that is a natural catalyst of change as well. You know, how the waves come in and out, but it is but a single drop of water that is the entire ocean. So that truly is infinity. And when we talk about water in this way, there is no clear way to describe what is water, because it again comes back to that question of what is it not? Because it builds everything. And it's one of those universal building blocks. And we have so many throughout the cosmos and here on Earth. And water is but one of them.
Right. So the question that comes to mind, and the other question, is what you said earlier about the embodiment of this infinite nature that we are, the divine. I'm wondering if that can be embodied. I know you mentioned, like, you know, just the expression of this. That's how I usually see. And a lot of times I have those glimpses of witnessing the body mind just kind of speaking things, saying things, and, you know, breathing, which is fascinating. I know there's something that I have to call me, the real you, the real all of us, that kind of witnesses everything, that has a form experience. So, but when it comes to embodiment, is that what we are doing in a way? Kind of these messages of peace, love, embodying that in a sense of those concepts in the day-to-day, moment-to-moment, you know, human experience, being attentive to our thoughts and love, and all these beautiful things. Is that the idea of embodiment of the divine? Is it, or something else, or something more?
Right. I mean, in every moment, we are all embodying something, whether we are conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
When we talk about like the human experience and like day to day, many of us are so caught up in mundane embodiment, caught up with 9 to 5s and, very, very fear based. So that in itself is an embodiment. But we can go beyond that, which so many of us are. It's, our planet is starting to awaken and it's beautiful. So there is a divine embodiment that is happening. And for lots of people, they're catching glimpses of it and they're realizing that there's so much more to the world than just what, we perceive with what we're told is the 5 senses, but it's so much more than that.
Right.
It's so much more than the tangible nature. So when it comes to embodying and truly embodying something like infinity or divinity, it again comes back, and this seems to be a reoccurring theme, but truly, it's the unwinding of everything. We almost have to unlearn our human experience. We have to unlearn the world. Because if we think about, growing up and everything that we were taught of, this is how the world is, many of us grew up in a time when we weren't conscious, the majority of us. So we all have that conditioning and that programming. So if we wish to truly have a divine embodiment, we have to unlearn so many things. And I think that's where my work particularly comes in, because we have to face those shadows. Those become a darkened state of life. And we have to face the darkness if we want to get into the light. That's the duality. So it's more for embodiment. It's truly unwinding so that you can expand.
Yes, that also resonates true to me. What is the hardest, per se, the hardest part of the human experience, of the human life to unwind, to unlearn from your own experience?
Absolutely. That's totally within the darkness. All of the things that we believe or the coping mechanisms that we have that cover up trauma, because we can have a perfectly well childhood, but we all have trauma, whether it's self-inflicted, whether it's through school, or whether we've had the physical experience happen. There's always trauma in every single one of our lives. So that comes with the darkness when we face that. And within that, we have to face, these are the coping mechanisms and these are the behaviors that I've taken on to compensate this trauma. And it can become very difficult for some people to look at. And that's why we see so often some people are completely in avoidance to change or in avoidance to looking deeper beneath the surface, because there is so much pain. We've been taught to run away from pain. We've been taught that pain means something is wrong.
Right.
But sometimes it's just that our bodies need to feel pain in order for it to be released. So pain can actually truly be a beautiful experience. But I would say that right in there, that actual facing the darkness, that is what most people struggle with.
Right. Somebody said that here beautifully. He said something about the idea of freedom is that you can think that you're free. You can even feel that freedom coming from the infinite, the divine connection that you have, understanding, realization, whatever it is. But then try to do something that you really want, an expression. Try to express something with this body mind and see if you're free to do that. It's almost like being in a box and then trying to open your arms, and then you're just going to and be blocked by walls. You can't really open your arms. So that's when you know you're not free. So it always goes back to healing. It's funny, because I'm very interested in freedom, but then liberation. But then it kind of gently and kindly brings me back to healing.
Yeah, I think a couple things came up, and I love the analogy that you expressed of being within a box and seeing if you truly are free. And I think it goes beyond that, because I think the box in itself is never endless. If you want to think of Pandora's box, there's always a box that you're expanding out of. There's always, it's a journey, right? So we expand out of the box. We have our moment of liberation. And then we reach another layer of like a membrane almost, and we have to push and expand through that again. And that expansion, it brings up feelings of discomfort, uncomfortability. But we can't grow within our comfort zone, because that's the box. We always have to continue pushing through that. And whether that comes forward as discomfort, pain, whatever it may be, we have to push through that. And one of the big things that's come forward for me in that constant overcoming is the phrase yes and. Yes, I am feeling discomfort. Yes, I am feeling pain, and I'm still choosing to expand. So often when we see pain or discomfort, we stop right there. But that doesn't have to be the end. We can feel that, acknowledge that, let that flow sacredly, because our emotions are there for a reason. The pain is there for a reason, but it doesn't have to stop us. It can be a yes and.
Right. How did you get here? How did you become the expression that I'm speaking to now? Yeah.
Infinity. Where do I even begin?
Yeah.
Growing up, I always knew that there was more to this world.
Right.
I experienced the dark side of things from a negative polarity. I had things haunting me, bothering me. I started to close off. That flowed into my early adulthood when things escalated. I had really dark things visiting me in the night, pulling my body. Like, it was just, I needed to do something. I needed to figure out what was happening to me, learn how to protect myself, because here I was finally with somebody who I wanted to have children with. But how could I pass on this gift that was expressing itself as a curse?
Right.
So that moment really empowered me to stand up and say, I have to learn what's going on. I know that there's so much more to the world than this, and I need to understand it. So I think my personal expression at first came from experiencing the dark side, quote unquote. And I had to learn to walk my way through that. And that's really where, I started different divinations and, I learned different things, and it was great. It was empowering, but I knew that I hadn't touched what I needed to get to yet. And then I eventually found the Antojai Ascension Academy, and I started enrolled in that in 2022. And I've been there since. Course after course has empowered me more and more and more. I first started with the Antojai Quantum Reiki instructor. Then I became a shaman, and now I'm going on to Ascended Mastery. And every layer has gotten me to the true root of who I am, which I now understand is I don't have to define that because I'm everything moment to moment. But I think that overall journey of experiencing something that, is frightening. It's really frightening. But then having to push through that, find my power, protect myself, protect my future family, and then come out to the place where I am now, where it's like, I'm just everything. That's my journey. But I would say this now expression is a result of being in the Antojai Ascension Academy. I love it. I love it. I can't express my love for it enough, because you are training alongside other shaman who see the world in the same light. You can talk to people who have that same experience. You can grow. You can learn from each other. And that, to me, has been the most powerful transformation of my life.
Gosh, I love that too. Yes, being around people that see what we see. Yeah, that makes this journey so much more interesting. So what's the meaning of the word Antojai?
Antojai is like the Ascended Masters. So the Antojai Quantum Reiki, we call it Antojai Quantum Reiki, but it's really the seventh language of Antojai. Antojai is the language. Antojai is the building blocks of the universe. Antojai is the energy of everything. You'll see different cultures throughout the world all call this something different. You'll see like the traditional Reiki referencing it, but not getting to the root of it. Antojai is essentially the root underneath everything. It's literally, we have water frequencies, we have life frequencies. It's the pixels of reality, what everything is fundamentally built of, the quantum nature. So that's truly, if I have to express Antojai, that is how I express it. It's the language of the Ascended Masters, and it is frequencies that are the building blocks of the universe.
Right. When I see your work and the work of so many amazing coaches, instructors, psychologists, even spiritual teachers and healers, I mean, it's just beautiful to see. To me, it just seems like we all trying, you're guiding other people to tell their story, to tell a good story, a great story. And that's what it comes across to me, the message. You know, if we have the chance to tell a story, why not tell a beautiful one? If we can dream like God would, so why not have a beautiful dream and realize that here?
Absolutely. No, I love how you phrase that. And one thing that really touched me when you were speaking is you said we're spiritual beings struggling to be human.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've experienced myself, because when I was going on my own journeys, I realized I have a deep longing within me for something that it's not tangible. I don't know what it is.
Right.
And I came to realize that that longing was coming from my soul, my spiritual being, who missed Adonai, who missed, we all have different phrases, the golden city, the afterlife. So
Yeah.
I really connected with that. So that's something for other people to recognize as well, is if you have a deep longing within yourself and you don't know where that's coming from, that's a part of your soul that's calling you home. And that doesn't necessarily have to be scary or mean that you're going to transition to the afterlife, but rather it's just an honoring that that's going on in the background. And honoring that, yes, there is a place that we come from that is divine love, that is divine light. And we are here in the incarnate to, sometimes like almost experience darkness, right? Because if that side of reality is divine love, is divine light, we had to come here to experience duality in some forms. So it's natural that while we're incarnated, we experience trauma, we face trauma, because these are the challenges that help us grow.
Yes. So how do you see, from your perspective, this idea of the soul? Do you also have this understanding that we are here because we have believed, or we believe that we are separate from the divine, from the infinite?
Well, I think we all began with a sense of oneness that wanted to experience the universe experiencing itself. And then that divided many times, as you'll see, a cell divide, until we get to this point here where Earth is a giant cell and we are all cells within it, and we all have cells within ourselves. So we've literally divided ourselves, our souls, into many different forms who are all here experiencing life for this divine one consciousness that decided to separate and experience itself. So there's that layer of that. But then there's also another layer where, okay, so now we've divided and we've separated, and now we have souls, and our souls are on a journey of personal learning. So our souls are essentially on a mission, if you will, to experience itself, have several different incarnated lifetimes, because we are here to fundamentally understand a perspective of this greater oneness that is wishing to experience itself. So yes, there's karma involved in that, because in order to be an incarnate form, we have to have some form of karma. That's what helps us be physical. But do we reincarnate because of karma? Yes and no. It's more like our soul is, okay, I have this lesson. I didn't awaken to it in this lifetime. Now I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to move into this lifetime. And okay, I didn't wake up last time, so I'm going to make this more intense so that this time I really wake up. So that this time I really wake up. And that's like, it is a form of karma, but then it's also like, it's a conscious choice of our soul. And I had a session with a client the other day, and she's like, why would I do this to myself? Why would my soul do this? And I said, your soul's not thinking from right and wrong, light and dark. It wants you to wake up. And at some point, it becomes tired of not waking up. So it says, okay, I have this really big plan that I'm going to incarnate into your physical timeline, where this is going to be a waking up moment. It's going to shake your reality because it wants you to wake up. So that's how I see the interaction with, yes, it's karma, but yes, it's soul wanting to wake up.
So does it have an end? This the soul's journey? Does it have a destination per se, Jaleen?
Expansion. I would say that is its destination, is truly expansion, because even if, you know, we've learned all our lessons here and then we return to soul's still on a journey. And, you know, there's always levels and layers, because at that point, if we truly do become a master, then we become an ascended master. Then we are, you know, in divinity and we are guiding others. So there's always multiple layers. Even if we finish here in physical form, soul always has a journey, and it'll continue to expand and unfold in different ways. Because essentially, like, our soul is like the storehouse of all lifetimes. Lifetimes don't have to be physical. Lifetimes can be fifth, sixth, seventh dimensional, where we're not in like physical form, where we are guiding others as well. So it's kind of like the storehouse and the collection of all of the lifetimes, if you will.
Yes. So talk to me a bit more about the book, but I would like to know about the co-authors too. How did you meet them? And what was the intention for writing the book?
Absolutely. So we all met within the academy, the Antojai Ascension Academy. So we all learned alongside each other. And then there just so happened to be an opportunity for me to compile and edit a book. And I've learned to lean into my intuition. Something was telling me, you have to do this. Antojai wants to express itself in a book in written form. I don't know how, I don't know who, I don't know when, but you have to dive in. Yeah. So it really presented itself to me, and it said, Jaleen, you have to guide this. So I said, okay, let's do it. So I put the feelers out there, and then, you know, at first it wasn't even projected to just be an Antojai book. It was just a book of conscious beings. I would be running Antojai through it, like frequencies through the words. But as it unfolded, it was just people from the academy who joined us. And actually, we had one of our co-authors, her daughter wrote in the book as well. So it was actually really beautiful, because, you know, this shaman was writing their story, and then the daughter was able to come in and write the inner child's perspective of, like, this is what I watched my mother go through. So you really got like two sides of the experience. So it was so beautiful to have that be a part of our book. So it just kind of, it came together so magically, so beautifully. And we were doing meditations throughout the book, running onto high frequencies throughout our words. And in our meditation, our mantra was, and let the book write itself through us. We were truly just conduits. And when it came to the editing phase, keep in mind, we weren't ever talking to each other about what we're writing about, right? So when it comes to the editing phase, I was mind blown, because I'm like, all of our chapters are so complementary to each other. All of our chapters, you know, we had some people writing about earth magic. We had, you know, myself and another shaman writing about like the dark aspects, because we have to face this darkness when we go through this journey. So there was so many ways and so many complementary messages throughout, that it was just like, Antojai is the author, but we are the co-authors. So it was just such a beautiful unfolding. I never had an experience like this, because this is truly a pioneer book. This is the first co-authored book written by Antojai, first generation. We are the pioneers. So it was truly an experiment and an unfolding. So that was our first book. I'm already planning a second book of different co-authors through the academy. So it's just been such a beautiful journey.
Yes. Yeah. What is the best way to face the darkness. Like for those who are struggling with their own thoughts, they feel that they are dark. Or at night, like you said, like I still have some, I think they call like dream visits of entities that I'm not aware. I don't know. I mean, I have an idea. I don't want to disclose here because people around my family, so I don't want to say their names. So do we have to kind of judge them as dark, or maybe just lean in, as you said, about paying and just listen and see what, because fear is not something that I want to engage with in that sense when it comes to this. So talk to me for a moment about darkness and how to dispel that.
Absolutely. So that's why I work from the middle, because if we are duality, light has to exist in order for dark to exist. Dark has to exist for light to exist.
Right.
So if we choose to only exist in light, our highest frequency of light, we have to experience the lowest frequency of dark, because it's polarity. We cannot be here if we're not here. So that's why we have ebbs and flows constantly back and forth. And that's why I choose to neutralize simply in the middle. So this is like the gray area. If this is white and this is black, I'm gray. And when you can step into neutrality in the gray space and have that as like your foundational bottom, you're not constantly in fight with the darkness, because you have this foundation beneath you that's like, yes, this exists, but this exists too. So truly, in order to overcome the darkness, we almost have to come to like a level of acceptance with it, like not fight with it. Like obviously it exists because we can see it, sense it, it's there. But that doesn't have to be my reality. I can come into this neutrality. So it's not, so many of us think, oh, this is a really dark experience, I have to come over to light. But that just continues the wave back and forth. Whereas if we just actually step in the middle, that stops the wave entirely. It's like a reset moment. That doesn't mean that we can't exist here or here. This doesn't mean that I don't experience joy. This doesn't mean that I'm a robot. It just means that this is my reset point, my foundation. Think of it like, have you ever been a child in the bathtub and you're like moving back and forth and the waves get higher and higher and higher? That's what we do when we constantly move back and forth. The waves get more intense. But if we just stop in the middle and we let everything settle, that's like an absolute reset point. So as the waves just stop, that's our moment of stillness, our moment of silence. So I would say like that is truly how I overcame the darkness. Does that mean that I don't still see it and experience it? No, that just means my foundation. So it really comes back to like, what foundation are you building your life upon?
Basically seeing everything is sacred. That's very simple. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? But when we trying to shed some of the conditionings, then that's when we know it's not as easy as we think it is. But yes, that's my mantra. Always sacredness. Everything is divine. Everything is sacred. And I'm wondering if that's the same thing. Do you translate that as the same from what you just explained about neutralizing? Would that serve that purpose from your perspective?
Very similarly, yeah. So what I also see is like there's a couple things coming up. But the first thing is like when we perceive that we aren't neutral, we're in fight with it because we're striving for it. So we perceive I'm in the dark and I want to get here. That's actually a way of fighting your manifestation because you're perceiving it to be outside of yourself. So that's where yes and mantra comes in, because it's like, yes, I'm perceiving the darkness and I'm neutralizing and I'm balancing and I'm accepting what it is. I'm seeing the truth of what it is, because truth and darkness are very closely tied into each other as far as like being able to neutralize the darkness, because we can't be in fight with it anymore. So truth absolutely is a piece of that. And then the other piece is like, so many people are like, when we ascend into 5D, it's going to be like utopia, right? And that's just simply an illusion, because it's like you said, it's like, it's a shift of mind. It's like the fear, the anger, it's like, it's not going anywhere, but it's like, now I can see when my body is triggering and resonating in fear. And I can now check in and say, hey, body, what's going on? What are you perceiving? What's coming up? And I can check in with myself and I can shift myself through that, and that's a process. Am I perfect every time? No, it's a human experience, right? And that's where I have my foundation. But it's rather my perception of the emotion has changed because I understand that my emotions are my teachers. My emotions are my friends. I have relationships with my emotions. I can talk to them and they can talk to me. Yes. So it's like that relationship and the perception changes. And while it seems like nothing's changed, everything in here has. And this is where the 5D is. And you can even say this is where the 5D is because it's a change of view. It's not a destination.
Right. So you wrote the introduction, chapter 1, introduction, alignment. And then you talk about the experience with the co-authors and how it came together. And then chapter 4, the beauty of the storm. So, and then you also wrote chapter 11, reflections in the water. And then you talk about radical self-acceptance that really resonated with me immediately. Yeah, self-reflection, facing the shadow. So there's a lot in your book. And that's just your chapters. But then you have the chapters of co-authors too, which is, I didn't read them, but I have the copy. I'll take a look at it. I would love to interview them too. That'll be an interesting experience.
Yeah. I think each one of us held a sacred piece of the puzzle for each other because while we talked about our own chapters, we each held something for each other that we needed to understand and overcome because this truly was it was a deep experience for all of us and we all shifted something within this book. Yeah. So each one of us, we held a piece for each other. So it was just so beautiful to work with all of these beautiful souls. So yeah, absolutely. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah. Can you mention their first and last name, Jaleen, please? The co-authors, it'll be nice to honor them right here in this conversation.
Our beautiful co-authors of the book are Kathy Kleitz, Carolyn Rudelman, Caitlin Brooks, Lisa Curtin, MJ Michelle Bonella Julian, Karen Peters Bowden, and her daughter, Kelsey L. Bowden.
Yes, I love how you memorized them. I was like looking for the names here. I couldn't find it, but yeah, yes. It is beautiful to work together. It's something that it really resonates with me too. Collaborations, like doing this work together separately. Let's see. There are so many. The ultimate choice. That was interesting too. You say a tangible lesson. So this is just summarizing what he's saying there. Change is inevitable and you can either be in flow with it or not. You can either accept life's flow or not. This by no means is easy. Right. So that's, gosh, it goes back to the idea of darkness again. So it's a flow. It could be like you said it in a very interesting way about them. It's almost like seeing this scale, right? So going back and forth like the wave again. And sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't for the body, mind, or whatever it is. But it's being able to be with it that will matter. And then you're right, it's not easy, right, for most of us.
It's a difference between choosing to ride it and choosing to swim against the current.
It will be so much harder and cause unnecessary suffering, right, by doing that. So I like at the end you have the riding the waves visualization too, and you talk about written meditations and how to experience them. There are 2 ways of doing it. So I would love for you to explain that here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we so often think of meditation as like laying down and either like listening to somebody guide you or like visualization. But truly meditation is like, it's a state of mind. So there's a form of written meditation as well. And I think for those who read the book, they're going to really recognize this because the words almost, when the energies are flowing through it, the words become hypnotic. So you can look at the page, you can read it, and then suddenly you realize where was I? What did I read? So that's kind of like the experience of it. So that's why I always say, like, when you're reading this book, you might have to take it in chunks because it will be a hypnotic experience that's different from other books because of the frequencies. But when we're doing like written meditations and experiences, it's just kind of like you're reading and it's a gentle wave that carries you away, that the energies are running through you, and it's almost like you're reading the words and the energies are entering through your eyes. So then the eyes, center of perception, third eye, so there's like that activation within the written meditations.
Yes, I felt it. Yeah, I definitely felt that. Yes. Yes, I was and I was just staying there, just kept reading it. And that's interesting. You said it's meditative kind of activation stage that sets the mind in, but also like hypnotic, right? And almost you don't want to stop reading it because it feels like an alignment. That's what it is. That's definitely the case here. You also said something. Actually, I'll ask you because I have so many notes here. This is the end of our conversation. Would you like to read a section in your book?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
sure. Okay, so I'm going to read this section from chapter 4, Beauty of the Storm. It's under the sections The Precursor and Darkened Storms of Life.
Yeah.
The only way to change is to intimately see and know oneself in every array of light, shade, and color in the spectrum of life with balance. When we darken our lives, we must also remember to brighten them. When we become too saturated, we must remember to reset with grayscale. If we cannot see, if we allow life to blind us, or if we cover our eyes, we cannot steer our own ship in the direction of our life's paradise. So let it be now that we peer into the abyss of the darkness together and remember our flashlight. Let us see the truth of the darkness together and hold the awareness of our own storms of life as a means to empower our lives. The storm is a force of nature that many fear to reckon with. However, how can we avoid the inevitable force of self when we are our own storms? The storms of life are the duality and polarity of life's experiences, emotions, thoughts, and beliefs, as all elements attempt to fuse together. Change causes the darkness within the depths of our psyche to stir and bubble to the surface, which can be challenging to face. Sometimes when darkness surfaces, we can become uncomfortable with ourselves, desire to change, and begin adjusting how we interact with the world. In other instances, when the bubbles of darkness burst, yet we ignore it, we are thrown in the depths of the darkness, where we remain until we remember how to swim our way out.
Thank you so much, Jaleen, for your beautiful expression in this reality at this time, timeless time, and the inspiration that you're offering to all of us, to the heart, really. It's interesting how it kind of opens the heart. Your presence, your words, the written words, when you speak, everything just kind of, yeah, it feels very peaceful to the body, mind. Of course, the soul, it's celebrating that too. So thank you so much again for being you.
Thank you.
And before we say goodbye, I want to mention your website, elementalfrequencies.biz, B-I-Z. They'll be clickable on the podcast notes. And there's a page there on your website with all your services. I love the colors. I love the illustrations in the book too. I forgot to mention. But you do offer a 15-minute introduction section. So that's wonderful too. So people can try to talk to you and to see how it goes in the beginning. Even like one of the questions that I had immediately was, how do I choose one of your services? Like, because I see so many of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like a little bit of both. If anybody's not really sure what service would be best suited for them, that's where I would say like the 15-minute, and then we can talk a little bit about like where you're at and what your goals are, and then we can match. But other times there's people that are just like, they're drawn to something, some people, they need a home cleansing, so they do the home cleansing. Some people, they want to activate, so then we can do activations. Some people just want to balance. So I have a few different services like that. I am considering condensing them just into basic packages. But as of right now, that's how we do it.
Right. Thank you so much again for your beautiful presence, and we'll talk soon, Jaleen. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now.
Bye for now.